don't think we know yet. It's certainly not a victory for him. I don't even think it's a tie for him. I don't see how you can sort out. Look, our Constitution is majestically vague about what presidential powers. We know the president has the pardon power, but honestly, commander in chief, what other powers are there? So you have express, you have implied, and then you have this word penumbra. What's in the shadows of those express powers? That can only be fleshed out in litigation. The Supreme Court doesn't handle litigation. So if he wants to proceed on what is unequivocally a private act, he's welcome, I guess, to proceed without prosecution, but that's still going to take time to assert that it is unequivocally private. This is not a win for Jack Smith. How close to a tie it is depends upon what the remainder. You'll remember, Brett, when John Roberts was confirmed, he said he was a minimalist. That was the word he used. He talked about judicial humility and that he was a minimalist. It is not surprising to me that he wrote the majority opinion. He wants to write it in a minimal way.
Well, that was the venerable Trey Gowdy talking about the Trump immunity case. This is Tim. This is Get Off My Lawn, the mad ramblings of a Gen Xer. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to click on the notification doohickey because it's the only way you're going to know when we do these types of videos. Well, the Supreme Court came out with kind of a surprise ruling, 6-3, that ex-presidents have substantial protection from prosecution. Now, this, of course, all goes back to the special counsel Jack Smith case for the election interference. You know, it's kind of a surprise the way this came down. Now, it's really only, I've been trying to read the decision. I've been trying to read the majority decision by Justice Roberts, but it's a little difficult to read. I'm trying to go through it as slowly as possible, but it's offering ex-presidents immunity, but it's offering them immunity for official actions committed while in office, but not unofficial acts. So this is where it's going to get sticky. This is where Trey Gowdy was kind of saying it's a little bit of a tie because you don't know. Trump has always been arguing what happened on January 6th, what happened with the alleged election interference. Because, you know, when it's a Democrat, we don't use the word alleged because they're always innocent. But for a Republican, we have to use words. It's alleged. It's just an interesting decision, and it fell right along party lines. You kind of knew that was going to happen. That was no different. But it's basically saying that the president's not above the law, but the Congress may not criminalize the president's conduct in carrying out responsibilities of the executive action under the Constitution, and the system of separated powers designed by the framers have always demanded an energetic, independent executive. That came from Justice Chief Roberts. In the lower court's rulings, the lower court had an interesting question. One of the judges, I don't remember which judge it was, but she had an interesting question. She talked about SEAL Team 6 and the assassination of Osama bin Laden. And it was interesting because her question was framing the fact that even though the president sent out SEAL Team 6 to eliminate Osama bin Laden, would that be considered murder? Would he be immune from being prosecution for committing murder? Even though it's done as an official act of the United States because he was listed as a top terrorist. Now, it also says the president, therefore, may not be prosecuted for exercising his core constitutional powers, and he is entitled to, at minimum, a presumptive immunity from prosecution for all official acts. The immunity applies equally to all occupants of the Oval Office, regardless of politics, party, or policy. That's basically covered. That's basically covering everyone. Now, you know the liberals are going to go crazy. That's why I'm here in the bunker. That's why I got the helmet on, because you know they're going to go nuts. They're going to go crazy. Because this whole thing with special counsel Jack Smith and the election interference case, he was basically saying it was a conspiracy to defraud the United States and a conspiracy to obstruct official proceedings, obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceedings, and conspiracy against the rights. These are all the things that Jack Smith is trying to charge Trump with. Now, Trump has always said that, you know, everything that he did in reference to the Capitol, you know, I'm not even calling it riot. I don't call it a riot, but some people do, the January 6th riots and the election and the alleged election interference was all done as an official act. So that's why this case went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And it's interesting because you figure that a president, while in office, has to have some type of protection. And it's not just for protection from internally in the United States. I think it also should kind of go a little bit more abroad, that he cannot be held accountable for official acts of his office. And it goes back to, like I said, it goes back to the lower court rulings about, like I said, about, SEAL Team 6. What happened there? Basically, someone could say, well, you went out and you murdered Osama bin Laden, so you should be held responsible for that, and you should be charged with murder. But at the end of the day, it's an official act. Now, why all this ruling does, basically what it does is nothing for the New York case. It does nothing for the civil case. It does nothing for the case, really, in regards to what's going on in Atlanta. That case should be dead anyways, because we all know about the prosecution misconduct there. Or actually could apply to Atlanta. It's going to be interesting because I don't think this ends the Jack Smith case. I don't think it ends it. I think it delays it. I think it pushes it back for an extended period of time. It's going to push it back well past the election. It's going to push it back maybe years, because Jack Smith is going to have to prove that Trump was not having an official act when he was doing these things. He's going to have to prove this. And I really find this interesting because, like I said, to me, it's a tie. To me, it's a draw. To me, it's a standstill, because you don't know exactly what a judge is going to rule or what someone's going to rule in reference to what is an official act and what is not an official act. So to me, in some regards, while it puts Trump gets him off the snide a little bit about this, I still have to go through all 43 pages. But it also looks at it that he kind of does have sweeping powers for his duties. I said duty. Sorry, that just made me laugh for a second. It gives him sweeping powers, and it gives him that immunity from criminal prosecution as long as it is deemed an official act. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes. But at this point in time, it's a win for the former president. He's been racking up the wins left and right. It's going to drive the Democrats and the liberals crazy. So we know we're going to just stay here in the bunker as long as we can. We got the helmet on. We got the gas masks. We're all ready. And like I said, as soon as the radiation dissipates, we'll come back up. But it's going to get real interesting, folks. So stay tuned. Again, this is Tim. This is Get Off My Lawn. The Mad Rail means of Gen Xer. And I'm out of here.